Hi, I'm Dynasty Chef Steve, and this is the Sunday IDP Live, a proud partner of the Full Time Fantasy Podcast Network.
Welcome, IDP fantasy football fans. My name is Gary, aka the IDP Tipster on Twitter.
What's up? Good morning, or I guess it won't be morning when you guys hear this, but it's morning for us. I'm Jordan Rains. I go by 50 Shades of Drunk on Twitter. You guys can follow me there. We're here to talk some IDP news with you this morning and hopefully get you set up for 2019 season. I guess today we'll just go ahead and jump right in with the news. We had a couple of injuries and some things happen in training camp. One of the big things for a lot of people was Quincy Williams, the linebacker that was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been impressing in camp. They say he's been flying all over the place, making plays. Apparently, he hurt his meniscus, or he has a slight meniscus tear, and this is as of Friday. Friday or Saturday or Thursday or Friday afternoon. I can't remember exactly which one, but he had to have a arthroscopic knee surgery to go in and look at that. The good news is apparently he will be back by week 1, but he's missing reps. So that's newsworthy. I thought I'd toss it over to Gary, kind of get his take on the situation there. What do you think, Gary?
Well, let's just hope that considering the Jaguars situation with Telvin Smith not showing up and a few other situations they got going on that defense, let's hope that this knee procedure actually goes well. As of right now, it looks like they have Nigel Good taking his reps at the weak side linebacker during practices, and that is not Nigel Good. He is not cut out to be a weak side linebacker. But, with that being said, the Jacksonville's pretty beat up across the line. They got, we're going to talk about their defensive end. I won't even pronounce his name. That's going to show up until Saturday or Monday, excuse me.
Yannick.
Yeah.
That's my
so this isn't wrapping up too well as for the Jacksonville defense overall. There's a lot of question marks right here. I mean, the one positive, I guess, that we know that they have going on, Josh Allen had some knee problems or something during OTAs and such earlier in the year, but he seems to be practicing. Now that Quincy Williams is hurt, Josh Allen, as we know from prior Sunday IDP Lives and people being guests on here, has experience playing linebacker. And the news coming out right now, the last thing that, Marone, the coach, had mentioned was that he was going to be used as a pass rusher specialist. They may reconsider his position depending on how the rest of this camp goes and the health of this team. I mean, Miles Jack's stock is just out the roof right now. It has to be, considering the situation. And, we have Jack Ryan, I think, former Packer. He's down there. I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing him in there getting any reps. I did not see any reason why he wasn't, like he was injured or anything. I'm not sure why they would pick a longtime journeyman. Never got the job done good in there, but, I suppose they're just adjusting on the fly. I also meant to look to see what kind of free agents are out there. I don't see any. No noteworthy ones. So they're going to probably have to fix this from within with what they got. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think, Jordan? I mean, that situation is kind of shady.
I think Jacksonville will recover. I know we've kind of talked about them a lot because they've had a lot of stuff happening between Yannick and Telvin Smith. But like you said, Miles Jack's stock is on the rise. He's on one of my main dynasty teams. I love the upside that he presents. I love that he's on the field a lot. I think this is a good opportunity. For a couple of weeks back, we talked on the show about this increased safety usage. And if there's a team that might start implementing that, you're looking at Jacksonville start doing that. They got a couple of young-ish guys. Ronnie Harrison, I know he just played a little bit last year. I know a couple of guys are high on him. Actually, I know Dan, who's supposed to be on with us tomorrow for Q&A. He's a big Ronnie Harrison fan. And then Jarrod Wilson, he's been on the team a few years, I think. He's a little older. I think he might be 24, 25, 26.
Yeah, he's still young, though.
But yeah,
they
still
just
young.
signed him. He just signed him a big contract out of the blue right after the preseason. They really liked what he showed last year. And towards the end of the season, I actually did a dime drop on Jarrod Wilson and Ronnie Harrison about 2 weeks last year before they released Church. I tried to get people to pay attention to Ronnie Harrison because I had been seeing things that they weren't too satisfied with Church, and Church was actually creating some problems. So, it was like 2 weeks later, he turned around and got released, and Ronnie Harrison became the guy. And of course, Ronnie Harrison was one of my breakout calls for this year. It felt obvious to completely say it, but I talked to some of the IDP guys out there, and they were like, "Hey, look, you called this before Church even got released." So, Ronnie Harrison is lined up. It's done nothing but increase. And these calls were made before Telvin Smith said he wasn't coming in. So I think Miles Jack, the call that I made on Jarrod Wilson, I think is paying off. If anybody is bothered to go get him, he's kind of a big guy playing free safety back there right now. And if this keeps going the way that it's going, all three of those, Miles Jack, Harrison, and Jarrod Wilson, could be really busy this year if this injury bug and these problems at the Jacksonville Jaguars as a whole doesn't get itself worked out. I wouldn't be surprised right now if they're camped out on Telvin Smith's front door saying, "Come on, dude, what's it going to take? What do you want? To get back in here."
He's got pretty much everything he could ever want. He signed a pretty big contract. I think it was last year. I guess he's just, I don't know what his situation is, Telvin Smith. I hope he gets it resolved. I hope, these guys, some of these guys, the trend is there's more important things in football. And that's true. Football, for us, it's a sport, it's entertainment. For them, it's work, and there's a lot of times when there's a lot more important things in my life than my work. Family and my personal health and life are generally held to a higher, regard. And if I have the money to take some time off work and go figure that stuff out, I would do it. So hopefully he comes back.
And that's really it. His situation is he's choosing family over paid. And he's actually been docked. I think it was $80,000 or $88,000 already for what he missed in the off season, not alone what's going on right now with camp. So this guy he had to have known he had to be putting money into the bank. Oh, yeah. Where a lot of these guys spend that up. So
the financial analysis to know, what's worth it, and what's family worth. If you had to dump your whole contract to pay your family, he probably would. So.
I'm currently in the middle of that. Well, not in the middle. We're towards the end now of that getting defensive MFL league, and Telvin Smith's still sitting there. I looked this morning. I actually just got to make a pick, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is late. Is it worth the flyer? I'm seriously considering about grabbing him.
He gets drafted in all the IDP drafts I've done so far this year. He's still being drafted, not super high, but he's getting drafted by people. So there's hope still.
Yeah, but I'm shocked. This is like the 22nd round or something, and he's sitting there in a 16-man league. So it's an interesting situation. Yeah. So what we got next?
Yeah, I was just going to say the highlight, the last little bit again, Yannick Ngakoue. He's in his holdout. He's supposed to be back on Monday, Monday or Tuesday, whenever they report back. So fingers crossed that happens. I want him to play. He's a guy I really like. But anyway, so we'll move on. Next piece of news. Former Titans safety Jonathan Cyprian. I think that's how you say his name. He signed.
I always call him Cypher.
Cypher, yeah. He signed with the Eagles over the weekend. So they're bolstering their safety depth to go along with Malcolm Jenkins. And didn't they? I believe they signed Anthony Sendejo as well in the offseason. And then there's that McLeod guy. We've gotten a couple of questions about him. But what do you think about Jonathan? I know he he's been productive in the past. I was running down stats. I was kind of surprised. He had the ACL tear last year, so he missed the whole season. And they obviously have something special with Byard, which we talked about him at length last week as well, getting his contract. But I think it's a good move by the Eagles personally. I mean, if nothing else, for depth to get a guy like that on your team.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would just, I'm not going to go running out to get, I call him Cyprim, whatever. I don't think that he's going to enter the season as one of the main two starters. If they run some three safety sets, he might get some looks. I mean, I still think that Jenkins and McLeod, depending on how McLeod, I looked into that situation a little bit yesterday. I didn't see McLeod got hurt last year. I don't see any reason, though, why they're not going to have him out on the field this year. I'm keeping an eye on Avonte Maddox, the second-year cornerback / safety dude. He's been playing either nickel or the outside corner, but he's getting plenty of reps. So I don't do cornerbacks. There's a little dime drop on Maddox if you want to hear about a possible upside cornerback this year. But I don't think that, unless the situation hasn't came out yet where any of the McLeod or whatever is hurt, I just don't see Cyprin just coming in and taking over. There was a reason that he was released a long time ago by Jacksonville when, he was kind of productive by default. His coverage skills lack. So if we're talking a free safety position, you got to have some coverage skills out there. You got to be able to do something. Matter of fact, when Cyprin was healthy and they had him with Beard, the situation a couple of years ago was that they started bringing Beard up and throwing Cyprin back here in the back in certain plays just because they needed somebody to coverage up there in the safety position next to the line. So depth player. I wouldn't at this moment, until we hear any other noise, I wouldn't really think about throwing him in on my roster. I just don't think. And then now he's hurt, or he's coming off an injury. So
yeah, he is coming off the ACL. So I imagine that early in the season, he's probably not going to get a lot of reps. But that could also be a positive because, someone might draft him in your leagues or someone might have him stashed. And they might drop him, and week 5 or 6 rolls around and somebody gets banged up, and you could be looking at a guy who could walk into a pretty decent snap share off your waivers. So,
or you got a guy that might not even make the final roster. I mean, considering his situation, just got to keep an open mind. In my opinion, you got to keep an open mind about that. I mean, it does happen. These guys get signed and, they're in that situation. They're going to get a chance to prove themselves. They've got to be up to par to make the team. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation either way it goes. The one thing with the Eagles that I'm really excited about was the fact that Camus Grugier-Hill, which is happens to be somebody else that I have been talking about for the last season and a half. He actually got knocked down off the board after they signed Zach Brown, but apparently Zach Brown has not showed up to the point to where he's making any kind of an impact. And Grugier-Hill has been like the every down linebacker to keep an eye on. And right now, we just in the time that this getting defensive draft. Just in the short time that draft's been going on, enough news has been coming out about how Grugier-Hill is just being dominant. He's stepped up. The coaches are loving what he's doing, and Zach Brown's fell off the map. That, a guy that was probably going undrafted just a month and a half ago because Zach Brown's name was there. Grugier-Hill, I think I looked around round 12 in his 16 team, and he was gone. He was somebody's already caught on, probably listening to me. He's considering that I just keep plugging the news because I really like Grugier-Hill. The kid is just outstanding when you watch him out on the field, and he really looks like he's bringing it together. So there's a little information. You guys keep an eye on him because we know that if he's going to be out there and he's the starting middle linebacker in place of Jordan Hicks, he's going to get a lot of opportunity in that defensive scheme. He's going to get a lot of production. So there's a good play for you at IDP. Probably we're almost talking a low linebacker one as his floor, I think.
Nice. Very nice. I don't really have anything else to comment on that. I just, Cyprian, I think he has a pretty good chance to make the roster. They kind of have an older stable of safeties there of the Eagles, so it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and they got hurt last year. They was beat up. That Philadelphia team overall, they went through a lot of injuries, not only with Jordan Hicks later in the season, but that secondary. That's how Avonte Maddox got his chance, and they converted him over into a safety as a rookie. They probably are. They're probably stacking their deck just in case.
Yep. All right. Well, next little piece of news. It's kind of a twofer, but good news in Seattle. Ziggy Ansah, who is a pretty good pass rusher, is supposed to be. He's cleared this last week to take part in team activities. He had a shoulder issue last year, and he came over from the Lions. And the Seahawks need a pass rusher, so to get him, even as a little bit of an older guy, that's good. And the fact that he might be ready for Week 1 is going to be big for them, I think. What do you kind of think about Ziggy Ansah being there, especially now that Frank Clark's gone? They just kind of have a bunch of these middle rotational
Reed's still
guys.
hurt too, I believe, on that defensive line. I believe Reed is still hurt. He got hurt a couple of weeks ago.
I think he got suspended. I don't know if he's hurt.
Oh yeah, suspended.
Yeah.
Suspended.
So
I mean, when it comes to Ziggy, I'm going to call him Ziggy. It's as an IDPer, I think that I could look at him as a depth player. I wouldn't plan on being in my starting lineup. Yeah, I want to see if he's healthy. I want to see if he's healthy to the point he's going to make an impact. I've just never been impressed with him. He's showed at times, but he's also missed games, gotten hurt, whatever. And when he was with the Lions, right? And he's never clearly made that jump and stayed there. So, I mean, from an IDP's perspective, I like the guy. I like to think that he's got a good chance, but I'm not thinking that I'm going to pay the price unless he really falls in a draft, and he's probably going to be like a guy that I'm looking for bye week help.
Well, that's definitely a possibility that he could fall in drafts, because I think the sentiment that you kind of said is kind of reflected back by a lot of people. He's been, he doesn't have huge numbers. He's only played 16 games twice. He doesn't ever, I think the most tackles he's ever had, I'm looking at right here, is right around 50. That's combined, which, that's a okay-ish floor. It's not, it's not an elite floor, but it's okay-ish. And the most sacks he's ever had was 14 and a half, which is good, but that was 2015.
Yeah.
So,
and what was the closest one behind that for sacks?
He had 12 and two years ago, 2017, and he only played 14 games that year, so that's not bad. But I think the situation is, the Lions have not been great. I mean, sorry for Lions fans listening. Y'all have not been great for several years. It's been kind of mismanaged. There's been talent on the team, Ziggy, Stafford, Calvin Johnson. But, I mean, look at what has happened, Ziggy's gone. Calvin Johnson retired really early. It's just not a great situation. So I think that just in some ways the players that have been on the Lions have been capped. And I think if you're going to get the most out of Ziggy Ansah, it's probably going to be this year on a one-year deal in Seattle where there's no one else to rush the passer. So he's worth a flyer to me, especially if he has, kind of a 40, 50 tackle floor. He has a, 14 and a half sack upside is not bad. And again, like going back to their defensive line is depleted in Seattle. So he could be getting most or all of the opportunity there if he can stay healthy. So he's someone definitely keep an eye on. And while we're there, I'm just going to go ahead and hit on the other defensive lineman that I was, there's some news about was the their draft pick, LJ Collier. He sprained his ankle this weekend. So, like I said, there's a little bit of good news. Ziggy's feeling better. Bad news, though, is their rookie just got hurt. So that could, it's not great, but again, that might open up a little bit more opportunity or put some pressure even on Ziggy Ansah to perform.
Right.
Apparently, it's just a high ankle sprain. He should be okay.
Right.
But
should.
Yeah, exactly. But should. Once you get hurt like that, you could roll your ankle again easier.
Right. I'm pretty sure the high, it even says here it was rare. Mm-hmm. So the high ankle sprains are actually like the worst sprains that you can have. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know much about this rookie, so I would come to you and ask you about him. Tell you the truth, Jordan. So I don't know. I don't have a call on that whole situation. The defensive line with Reed being suspended. As soon as Reed was suspended, I'm not looking at that defensive line personally for IDP play. I'm not going to take the chance. I'd rather wait and see myself. But I play things
I don't
close
know
to the
any
chest.
Shares of Ziggy, but I am not looking past him. I'll say that. I think there is some hope. So
Right. Yeah.
And as far as the rookie, he was Seattle's first pick in the draft. They traded back several times. So, they need pass rush help. I think they have a pretty good talent evaluation there. They seem to have pumped out a lot of good defensive players. So I don't know a lot about Collier, but I think it's not good that he got hurt. But I think he does possess some upside, and somebody definitely keep an eye on. You might, people might drop him to waivers in your leagues, or he's probably on somebody's taxi squad in reality or their IR spot. But you might be able to swoop in, get a cheap D lineman, and this time next year or 2 years from now, you might have a top 15 guy. Who knows? I don't know, but if you're into him, now's the time to go make a play. I tweeted something out the other day. It's offensive side of the ball, but it's like you have to play the market. Melvin Gordon and Zeke right now, you're never going to get them as cheap as you're going to get them today.
Right.
Kind of similar situation with defensive guys. It's like Yannick Ngakoue in IDP. You're never really going to get him as cheaply as you could have the last couple of weeks whenever there's just this dark nebulous cloud over these guys. So if you've got the stones, that's how you win leagues is you go out there and you trade a healthy guy for a hurt guy or somebody with a positive review for a negative review, and then you wait. So I've done that with a few different trades, and if you're needing D line help, Collier is supposed to be a really good pass rusher. So
especially if you're building in a dynasty.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially in Dynasty, you have to play the market so much because a guy can be worth something today and be worth twice that tomorrow, or he can be worth half that. And you've got to kind of set your value yourself and think about that, and then be ready to strike whenever somebody falls into that window where you're like, all right, that's my buy number. Like, let's get this done.
Right.
So,
Yeah, good shit.
All right, let's see. What's the next piece of news here? This is kind of a small one, but relevant, definitely. D Ford apparently has a knee issue, a small, minor, whatever you want to call it, knee issue. And he missed practice yesterday, Friday. So that's not great. San Francisco's defensive line is stacked, and he's part of that. So him missing time does not make me excited, but apparently it's just a little bit of tendonitis and he should be okay, but I don't, any injury or any sort of pain in your body is a negative to me. So that's kind of my thought on it. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to look at it overall. They are stacked. They definitely, you got Boza, you got Ford, you got Buckner, you got Solomon Thomas, which is a little bit less to that extent. But I think this whole defensive line, its potential for its players as IDP plays is definitely, they're all connected together. They need all these guys out there. They need them healthy to make each other better for IDP play. Because you start eliminating by position and putting in subs, and that talent isn't at that level, then it affects the rest of the IDP plays
Yep.
they start concentrating on Boza. They start concentrating on Buckner because there's one less guy they have to babysit over on the other side of the line. So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see how this plays out. Hopefully for any 49er fans or 49er IDP fans, hopefully this is going to work out, and D and Boza and Buckner can all, mainly those three, all stay healthy and all are on the field the whole season to get this job done.
Yeah, agreed. Apparently, there's not really any concern that he'll be ready week 1, but I mean, there's always. I mean, you know how coaches are. Oh yeah, he's fine. He'll be fine.
Right.
Or we'll check. I mean, any sort of injury is noteworthy. So just keep an eye on it. See if he gets back into practice in the next week or two. See if they're limiting him or just what the verbiage is coming out of camp is kind of the best thing I can say about it.
Right.
So,
And if you were
like I said, that was
kind
of a minor piece of news, but I mean, newsworthy still. So,
oh, definitely. And if you're sitting on D right now, I mean, you probably didn't spend your first defensive line pick in a draft, or whatever you paid for him to get him on your roster. You can afford to sit here and go ahead and wait a couple of weeks and just see what happens. So I wouldn't panic just yet, not by the news coming out.
Yeah, and I was on Twitter yesterday, and there was a thread. I'm a Chiefs fan, so I follow several Chiefs accounts, and there was some guys going back and forth on there, and they were talking about D Ford's knee issue, and they couldn't really decide whether it had been brought up before or not. Somebody posted his actual injury history he's had, and they didn't reference it, but a couple of guys on there had said that he had complained of a sore knee a couple of times last year. He didn't miss any games because of it. So, I mean, if it's something he's already kind of had, and maybe he just got a vet day off, maybe they're like, well, so, no, like you said, no reason to panic yet, but definitely keep an eye on it.
And you bringing that up, that's really interesting, because if we bounce back at the Quincy Williams, what we just talked about with Jacksonville, he actually was out there. They said that he was experiencing knee soreness for a couple of days during this, before he got his injury, and just the other day, where he had to go have surgery. They said that that he was just complaining about knee soreness. They didn't go too far into looking at it, I guess, and then all of a sudden he got wrapped up or got into a pile and hurt it to where they figured it out that he had to have this knee procedure. So it can go either way. I guess right now you just can't panic about Ford. You just got to sit and wait.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is fun. We talked about him, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago as well. Tre Boston, free safety, signed with the Panthers over the weekend. He's kind of been floating around out there in free agency, supposedly, quote unquote, looking for money, but he signed a $3 million deal, which, I mean, that's a lot of money for a person like myself, but I'm not sure. Whenever Kevin Byard just got, what did he get, 75 million or something? I don't know. I don't know what the safety price per year kind of situation is. It seems like he might have sold himself a little short, but maybe he knows something. I was telling you before the show started, or maybe he knows a little something we don't know about the Panthers, odds to maybe get to the Super Bowl or whatever. But what do you think about them adding him to their stables there on their back end?
I mean, it is odd. If you'll while I'm doing this, or why I talk about it for a second, if you'll look back when he was a Panther to begin with, he was drafted by them and was actually a backup for quite a while. And then
he didn't start hardly any games.
No, and then all of a sudden he goes to San Diego Cardinals, and he's out there, in my opinion. Yeah, but in my opinion, it's production by default. I don't think that he is the top line type talent. And if he settled for $3 million just to go home, which if he started his career out there, I'm not sure he went to college. Maybe it's just a being comfortable type thing. They might have offered him that might actually be what the biggest bid was. We don't know. We don't know for his services. Maybe $3 million was the actual ceiling. So he decided to go home or whatever. Now, I mean, as far as IDP for the Panthers and the safety situation, Rashawn Golden, the second-year player, I've been plugging him, and I've been watching the camp reports pretty closely over that, and they had basically been playing him at nickelback, which is like a hybrid linebacker safety guy, and he was getting some free safety, and they was using longtime cornerback Cockrell from Pittsburgh. I believe it was the last place that he played. They were actually giving him a shot at free safety a lot in practice. And I think this signing overall, when you look at the depth chart, is to hedge their bet. I mean, Tre Boston has definitely got the experience under his belt right now. He can step in. He can play the role. He has played free safety for most of these teams in the past. I think overall we're going to see him out there starting from day one. I think Golden's value took a little bit of a hit here. He's probably still going to get a lot of playing time, but it's going to be as a nickel backer and maybe 3 safety sets. I think Cockrell just wasn't showing enough, and that's why they went shopping. If you've got a talent and a long-time veteran like Boston sitting out there, and you can throw $3 million his way and he takes it, hell yeah, I'll sign him.
Yeah.
Bring him in. There's no doubt about that. So, I mean, Boston, if he wins that position, he's got all the upside that he's had in the past, you know. So, and we know that they're going to be running a different type of defense this year. They're transitioning from the 4-3 into more of a 3-4 look. So, it's kind of, if I'm going to take him, I'm going to look at him like a DB2, just for now. Until we hear otherwise exactly what's going on. I do have my questions about Tre Boston. I mean, he did put out a couple of good seasons here, but, why did the Chargers let him go? Why didn't the Cardinals hold on to him? When you're talking $3 million.
Yeah, I don't know. The Chargers and Arizona, though, I mean, we're talking about 2 teams that have some of the better safety situations in the league. So that's a tough spot to be in, even if you are decent, when you're out there playing with Budda Baker and Bethea,
right.
Even, when you're out there with them, even if you're shining, they're shining harder, and Adrian Claiborne.
Bethea's gone too, so.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like you said, they let him go, but he was good, but he was still 3rd or 4th in the pecking order because those were some really good guys. I think he's going to be decent this year. The safeties in Carolina are, him and Eric Reed, and they're both 27. They're both. Reed's had a more consistent career, but he's also got to start most of his games his career.
Right.
Tre Boston has, like you said early on, I mean, he only started 5 games his rookie year, 1 game the next year. He's played in all 16 the next year, but he only started 1. He only started 10 in Carolina the year after that. That's a cap on your production right there. But then as soon as he gets to LA and Arizona, he's suddenly cranking out, 80 tackle seasons, multiple interceptions, highest pass defended of his career, 8 and 9. So maybe the Panthers messed up and they're like, all right, well, we realize that, and now we got a chance to put him back out here and actually start him. And him playing in tandem, and him playing in tandem with Reed. I mean, that could be a formidable little back end there.
Oh yeah, and
for
the free safety position in that division when you're looking at Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Atlanta, and what those opposing division teams play, the free safety does hold a lot of value there. Let me ask you, if you was sitting here and you was drafting right now, and you was looking at Tre Boston, where are you going to take him?
I did take him. Let me look actually real fast. I took him in a league not long ago, a month and a half ago, even when he was a free agent. It was later, but it was a dynasty startup. I don't know. He's on my waivers in another league right now, but I think he's pretty safe as a DB 2-3. I don't want him as my 1, but as a 2-3, I think he offers weekly playability.
A lot of upside.
I think there's there's upside there. I wouldn't say it's like elite upside, but I think he's a good player, and I think that he will produce for IDP. Let me look here if I can see exactly where I drafted him on here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything personally against Tre Boston. I can't say that I love him or hate him. And when it comes to IDP play, you're still sitting here. Productive by default matters. We don't have to really care what it's like when they're out there on the field or how well they show. There are certain grading systems that's out there that, this guy looks really good in coverage, so they grade him high. That's why we have the PAPS on site. PAPS is really based off of just production of what these players can pull off per snap. And Tre Boston's, he's lit it up. So it really, situation matters. It doesn't, you can
I got him in the 51st round of a dynasty startup.
Holy cow. Wow.
Full IDP, all this nonsense. Yep, I got him 51st round, 51-11 actually, so it's almost 52.
Right.
So,
right.
But that was when he was a free agent. So I imagine now if I was doing this draft, I probably would have had to reach for him a little bit sooner than that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure now. Yeah, this being out.
But
especially
he finished as a top. Let's see exactly. He finished as a top 24 safety last year, and he only played 14 games. In my sleeper league, he was a top 10 free safety. So I think, he's not. There's nothing shiny. There's nothing sexy about him. When the guy you're playing has, Buda Baker and Justin Reed and Jesse Bates, and you're strolling out, Tre Boston. Yeah, you're not going to feel great. But at the end of the day, he's going to be on the field. He's going to make tackles. He's going to put up points, and you're getting him cheap. So
yeah, and he doesn't have a lot of competition here. I don't think they've seen what they wanted out of Cockrell.
Yeah, and even Reed. He's only been there. They signed him partway through the season last year, so he doesn't exactly have like a cemented, concrete role there. He still has less playing time than Boston has. Even from his past. So.
Right.
It'll be interesting. I was actually really excited when I saw that because, like I said, I drafted him and I've just been sitting on him, hoping he gets picked up somewhere decent. Right. And I'm really happy he got picked up by the Panthers. So
yeah,
that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, he could have landed in a lot worse situation as far as somebody looking for an IDP play. So there is no depth back there. I like Golden still. Golden, but apparently he is a big kid. So putting him into a nickel linebacker position, I think that the whole situation by me was read wrong. His role was not going to come into the season as a pure free safety. I do think I mentioned that in the dime drop that we don't know for sure. But unfortunately, in this situation, Tre Boston's stock's up and Golden's is down. So, and I don't think there's any competition to keep Boston from ending up as the free safety.
Yep. We kind of have one other last little piece of news. Not even really, it's newsworthy, I guess. It's rookie linebacker Jelani Tavia, or Tavi. I'm not sure how to say his last name. I apologize if you're listening, man. Apparently he's impressing in camp for the Lions. He's they've been lining him up a little as outside linebacker, but playing some middle linebacker too. And he's been making plays and being impressive and awesome and all that stuff. It's that time of year, everybody's great, but that they have a weak linebacking core, so that's good news. And I know you're high on a couple of guys there in Detroit this year. It's kind of like sleepers or people that most of the community is maybe not emphasizing enough, including Tracy Walker. I know you've talked about him a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get it out there with Walker. But talk about the rookie here, the rookie linebacker. You're exactly right. There's not a huge amount of competition at that linebacker position. Even Jarrod Davis, he's a linebacker one for IDP purposes, but I don't think that he's been that linebacker that everybody thought that he would be. Outstanding, top talent type guy.
I read something that said he missed a ton of tackles last year, essentially, is what I read. But I also read somewhere that he had a lot of quarterback hurries or hits. So he seems like he could go one of two ways. He could either be on the way out, or they might move him to more of a rushing position, and he might, make a little bit of noise there. But I don't know. But,
I think at least for this coming season, his job's secure. There's just simply, other than this rookie, they have a weak side inside linebacker. They're going to need somebody for. Christian Jones didn't do anything with it last year, much of it. I wasn't impressed when they brought Kennard in from the Giants. And, he was an every down linebacker, but in his role there, he's not done that much for IDP purposes. So this rookie has a lot of upside here. If they're going to use him in multiple positions and get him on the field however they're going to, it really is going to boil down to his snap counts for IDPers. You got to be on the field. Now, with that perspective, let's look at Patricia's defense compared to what he learned or what he ran with the no bend, no break kind of New England Patriots defense. And, at the moment, I'm not sure that even if he became a starter, that you can depend on him in that role as a more than a linebacker too. I mean, just by role, if he's not in Jarrad Davis's position, productive by default, then I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a kid that I would take with the news of later on in a draft, but I wouldn't plan on this kid actually being
huge dividends.
Yeah. I mean, not yet. Now, on the other hand, like you brought up, I'm a huge Tracy Walker fan for on IDP purposes. I didn't know much about this kid. I did pay attention when they drafted him last year, but I am plugging the hell out of him currently, and I did a dime drop on him in all the news. Everything coming out is the plays and what this kid is bringing to practice. He has been penciled in as the starting free safety, which when you're in that division, and we know the longtime vet that just retired or they released, I can't remember his name, he had been very productive playing free safety for the Lions over the last 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name.
Yeah, and it's sad. I know he's an IDP guy, but we are early, so I'm having some brain fartage here. So, but in my opinion, out of that whole defense, the guys that I am going to be targeting, besides a couple of the guys off the defensive line, is Diggs and Walker. And I think you can get Walker, at least at this moment, you should be able to get really good deal in a draft or trading or even probably sitting on waiver wires. And this kid, I'm going to make this statement. I'm going to plant my flag in my ass. I really think that this kid's going to end up the season, as long as he stays healthy, according to what's going on right now. He has all the DB1 upside as of any player out there as a flyer or sleeper per se, and definitely shouldn't be sitting on any waiver wires at this point.
That's funny that you're bringing him up. Don't mean to cut you off, but just telling you, I took Tre Boston with the 51st pick in that draft, and I'm looking here. The pick before that in round 50 was Tracy Walker. So I got them both.
Yeah, cool.
And they were cheap. So
I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to move around, but I'm pretty sure I haven't seen Tracy Walker's name come off in that 16 team that we're in right now, and we're in the 22nd round or something. And if he's still sitting there in the next round or two, I'll probably snag his ass up. It's either going to be him or Jarrod Wilson. I think they both hold. Jarrod Wilson of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they both hold a lot of upside for some sneaky DB1 type numbers this year. Maybe not, top tier, but
that's funny. I'm looking at this draft still. I'm just scrolling down. Round 59, I drafted Jarrod Wilson.
Yeah.
I have all these guys.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, this is where, not to blow my own horn, but this is what we're here for, and why, at the IDPtipster.com, we do what we do. Is there are obvious and not obvious, and we tried to bring out the non-obvious early in the seasons, and trying to get these kind of guys. If you're not worried about taking your honey badgers or you miss out on Adams and Collins and all these guys. These guys can get you some of these numbers, and you can concentrate on your wide receivers or your linebackers or whatever else you want and not worry about it. Yep. So, and if you stack or pepper the end of your drafts with these types of names, it can really pay off,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Circling back to the rookie linebacker, I don't really have a lot to say about him. I didn't draft him, and I don't have him in any of my leagues. But apparently he's a good player, and he has massive tackle production when he did play in Hawaii. So Matt Patricia's a defensive-minded coach. He's kind of a bread and butter, make your tackles kind of guy too. So there's potential there. The rumblings out of camp are good. The college production is good. The fact that the guy he's playing with is just okay-ish. He's productive, but just okay. He could carve out a pretty good role there. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And circling back to those safeties, that's kind of where you find value in safeties, or I find value in safeties, is kind of like you said, getting in on a guy a little bit early, or getting in on a guy that is in a situation where maybe he's not the starter, or maybe he's in a rotation with somebody that's slightly better.
The name.
And you can, 2-3 weeks into the season, things change, and suddenly he is the starter, and suddenly he is the better player than so-and-so, So shoot your shots a little early on some of these guys. Well, not early, but shoot your shot with some of these guys, and some of them are going to pan out.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's just you said it right there. Some of these guys are going to play out. So even if you pepper it with a couple names and you only get one to work out, you didn't lose nothing.
Exactly.
You just gained
50,
something.
60 plus,
Right.
I can drop him without being, I didn't invest high in him,
Right.
So,
exactly.
And if he does hit, I can trade him, and to somebody who, messed around and only drafted 3 safeties and they have to start 2, I don't know.
Right.
I like to stack my teams with guys that I think could hit. Again, it's like, especially when you're in IDP leagues and there's limited positions on certain guys, I kind of like to I don't want to say I'm a hoarder, but I like to get guys that I think are going to be, going to be valuable. And later on, somebody might be like, well, you only paid this much in the draft for him. I'm like, that's great. That draft was months ago. He's worth 10 times that right now. So, I see that your team is struggling and you see that he's sitting on my bench, putting up twice what your starter's putting up. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
Right.
How can I get a good player from you and also give you a good player?
Right.
So don't worry about what I paid for him. That price is gone.
One of my personal favorite moves over the last 10 years is to find guys like Jarrod Wilson, Tracy Walker, and these. And if you are already deep at that, if I want a wide receiver upgrade from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 1, I will just add Jarrod Wilson, add Tracy Walker, and just overpay what they think. Oh my God, he's overpaying me. Well, the rest of my lineup's already been set up. So if I get that upgrade at wide receiver 1, 2 and I wide receiver 1, and I got this kid early off the waiver wires or something like that and didn't pay anything, then it's just a bonus. This is a great way to improve your team as an overall aspect, is finding these kind of players. So, and keeping that in mind as you do. So don't get all stingy. Don't get all stingy. Pay the price. Just move on. That's I try to preach that in the past. You got them for nothing. Sell them just for the upside of getting a better player.
Exactly. Sell high. It's like stock market. You got to buy the blood, and you got to sell that hype.
Right.
And
right.
It's hard to sell a guy coming off a 25, 30-point game, but if you believe honestly that could be his best game of the season. That's the time to sell.
Yep.
I've watched guys completely batter their teams, doing. I don't try to make knee-jerk reactions or trades like that, but I've watched guys completely rip their teams apart, chasing last week's points from somebody.
Oh yeah,
and you don't, time. I don't encourage you to be that person that does that. But if somebody's knocking on your door and they want to destroy their team, let them. That's my theory. I want to win, and if you want to trade me a good player for somebody that had their best game of their career last week, that's fine with me.
Okay, I'd just like to throw out a couple of names for people to start paying attention to, because I am, and I'm going to try to keep people up to date on these. As we know, Todd Davis in Denver has not been playing, and we've been talking of Josie Wells, and he's definitely doing really well. But the kid that's been playing in his position, and I believe he played in the Hall of Fame game too, just this past week, his name is Josh Watson. I believe he is an possibly undrafted free agent linebacker. Considering some of the names that he's getting to play on. It says Colorado State. Believe I got the right kid, Jarrod Wilson. What I've been seeing about him is very positive. He's a really smart guy. He's not making the same mistakes twice. If Todd Davis continues to miss time or can't get back on the field, you definitely want to keep an eye on this Watson as a depth player for your squad. And we have kind of the same situation, or a situation, going on with the Redskins as well. Sean Hamilton, Sean Hamilton has really emerged as the first guy now that they've let Reuben Foster leave, got rid of Zach Brown, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, the kid that's actually getting the time next to him is not John Bostic that much. I'm not sure what's going on with John Bostic, but a kid named Holcomb for Washington, if I look real quick, I think he was actually drafted maybe late. But I definitely want people to start paying attention to this kid because he has really impressed the coaches as well. Out of North Carolina, 2019 fifth rounder. Anyways, he's getting a lot of love. Now, I don't know a lot about these guys to begin with, okay, but I'm just putting it out here that they're getting time in practice. They're getting time with the starting unit. They're getting their opportunities. So I would not run out and get these guys, as a sure bet. But if you're at the end of your drafts or something, they have flyer written all over them. And the more flyer, the longer they stay as a flyer, the more of a sleeper they become. So if they actually decide to prefer this kid over John Bostic next to Hamilton, there's definitely some production numbers to be had there. And same thing with Watson out there with Denver. So yeah. I just wanted to drop those. I'll try to do some dime drops for our subscribers and stuff, and I'm putting this out here early for anybody that's catching. So I'm going to turn it over to Jordan, and we're going to let Steve take us home. And I am going to tell you thank you for joining us at the Sunday IDP Live. And IDP Fantasy Football friends, we hope you tune in each week. And I'm out.
Yeah, I kind of same. Thanks for joining us, guys. I hope you like this content we put on this episode. Hit us with some messages on Twitter. Like I said, Gary's at the IDP Tipster. I'm at 50 Shades of Drunk. Steve is Dynasty Chef Steve is his name. His handle's a little hard for me to remember right now, but you'll know him when you see him. We'll tag him in some stuff. Hit us with some questions. We're going to be on tomorrow with Dan Cook in the morning doing a Q&A. So, yeah, we're looking forward to chopping it up with him. I've been working on my linebacker rankings and working on getting tiers in all my player rankings this last week and a half or so. I've been moving a lot of guys around based on some news. I'm going to try to get that onto my Twitter. I know I put some stuff out about a month ago, some of my top 10 guys. I'm going to try to dump some of that stuff on you guys so you can start peeking at it, preparing for your drafts. But that's all I got for today. We appreciate you. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the subscribers especially. And let's gear up for 2019. It's here. Let's rock and roll, baby.